Hello, Abnormal Investigations family. Got a video drop for you. I hope you enjoyed the Boots on the Ground video drop today also. You're going to get a lot more of those this month. We got a lot of stuff coming this month and think y'all are going to really enjoy. Also, I would like to say, today actually, since it's 5:15 a.m., I've been working all night on this. We are going to be in a very, very strong, severe weather area with possible tornadoes, 70 to 80 mile an hour winds, large hail. So any prayers for us would be greatly appreciated. And also, if you want to see the video of it, I'm sure we'll video what comes across. It'll be on our Wide Open Adventures channel, and I will put the link to our other channel in the description if y'all are interested. And we'd love to have y'all subscribed over there also. And also, that's Hunter's channel, and he would love to see you guys over there. So we'd like to personally invite you to enter that channel also and become a subscriber. Let's get into today's drop. I'll start off with a little background. I'm currently 23, married with 2 daughters, not to mention my wife is pregnant. I'm a local truck driver in Houston delivering lumber to mostly new residential construction sites. I'm 6 foot tall, between 180 and 190 pounds. I'm 3/4 white and 1/4 American Indian. I won't name my tribe out of respect to my people. I'm the oldest of my great-grandfather's 40-plus great-grandchildren, which means I've learned a lot of our history secrets and legends that only my tribe's elders can tell you. Anyway, my experience was on the 20th of July in 2012. It was a Friday night. I was 19 at the time, and I didn't have any responsibilities other than delivering pizza part-time. So naturally, being a teenager, I was out with friends at a house party in Old Katy, a suburb west of Houston, Texas. My friend, Brennan, had gotten well past drunk, and once he was started to behave reckless, I decided it was time to leave the party and to take him home. He didn't want me to take him home, so instead he asked me to drive him to one of his friends' houses that I'm not familiar with. This friend, who I only remember as Joey, lived on the far west outskirts of Katy. I took the road called Morton Road to get there. We rode with the driver and passenger windows down so Brennan could get some fresh air. Sorry about that, guys. The street is one turn off of Morton called Bartlett. My sense of direction is fairly superior. I've delivered pizzas all throughout Katy and have since become a local truck driver in Houston. Bartlett had 3 or 4 houses on the right side, and on the west side was a fairly large forest area, maybe 40 or so acres, and dead ends just past the last house. I had noticed the moon was full before I even went out that night, and vaguely noted it as I got into Joey's house, the second house on the right, and parked my car on the left side of the road, closest to the trees. I helped Brennan get out of the car and walked him to the porch. Joey came out and thanked me for dropping him off, and we said goodbye. I decided to smoke a cigarette before I left the road. At the time, I shared my car with my dad, and his #1 rule was not to smoke in his car. After lighting my cigarette, it didn't take long to notice that the road was eerily silent. I assume I didn't notice before, as I was helping my noisy drunk friend get inside his house. Maybe 3 drags into my cigarette, I heard heavy footsteps going across the gravel, maybe 100 feet in front of me. I was alarmed at the sound they made, similar to the sound of pulling something metal against concrete. Just so we're clear, my fears have always been werewolves. I've always been into horror movies. I love scaring myself, but the only monster to pop up in my dreams have ever been werewolves. So here I am alone, standing in the dark road under a full moon, and I hear something big walking too close for comfort in front of me. I didn't hesitate to throw down my cigarette and get into my car. I told myself as I was getting in that I wouldn't turn on my headlights so I wouldn't have to see what was in front of me, and simply reverse my way back onto Morton Road and get the hell out of there. Unfortunately for me, my car had automatic lights that turned on as soon as I started the car, a fact that I was aware of, but in my panic I seemed to ignore. Immediately in front of me, about 100 feet as I had guessed, was a 6.5 to 7 foot tall beast. He was standing on 2 legs. It was covered in black fur. with the body of a gym-addicted man and the head of what I guess could be similar to a German Shepherd or a black wolf. It had human-like feet covered in the dark fur, as well as large claws sticking out about 2 inches, and it held its left hand out the same way a human would, reaching for something in front of him or her. I noticed that the fingers ended in large claws as well. While this was enough to cause my jaw to drop, what got me the most was that it was wearing torn blue jeans that seemed too tight and unnaturally torn, and an open flannel blue shirt that was ripped in its bulky shoulders. It looked way too weird, and the lights revealed it, and it glared at me with narrow yellow eyes bearing its large fangs. My windows were still down and I hadn't touched my radio, so I had no trouble hearing the loud growl it let out. It then turned its head to the forest, dropped on all fours, and ran out of my sight into the trees. All of this took place in about 20 seconds, but I felt like hours. At this point, I literally had tears in my eyes, but I didn't hesitate for 1 second longer to shove my car in reverse and put the gas pedal down to the metal. I heard loud growling and grunting as I was leaving. I reversed on the Morton Road and went 80 to 90 miles an hour down the streets leading back to Katy, and I didn't slow down till I was on the interstate, which would be Interstate 10. While still on Morton Road, I kept my eyes in front of me, and I sobbed the whole time because I had never been so scared in my life. I can swear that look I got from this creature was communicating to me that I had no business seeing him and they wanted me gone. The look reminded me of criminals on TV being caught in their wrongdoings and wanting to cause harm to those who had witnessed it. I got home and ran inside and called my Scottish Terrier in to my room and didn't sleep till the sun was up. To this day, I've never had a desire nor the nerve to go back to that part of Morton Road. I obsessed over the idea that I had seen a werewolf and researched werewolf sightings on Google and was intrigued by the beast of Bray Road and Michigan Dogman sightings and everything else that came up. I was disappointed to see that nothing I found on the web was precisely what I saw. While the beasts and others have encountered seemed similar, none were spotted wearing clothes. I told my mother and father what I'd seen, and while my mother could tell I was being genuine, my father was more interested in me driving that far from home without letting him know, so I stopped talking about it. Of the 7 people outside of my family I've told, only my wife now knows, and 1 friend seemed to believe me. Mike, I'm telling you, what I saw was real. You know, he goes on here, also gives some more information. I also never told Brennan, the friend I dropped off there that night, that I saw. In fact, I didn't see him again for 2 years until accidentally bumping into him at a gas station in South Katy. Now, my grandmother took an interest in my encounter and told me the legend of our tribe's skinwalkers and the cursed enemies, which is very interesting and very disturbing. I'm not able to give much detail out of respect to my tribe, but I'll say this. Our skinwalkers are very different than the Navajo tribe's tales. They would transform into the other bears or wolves when wars would break out. Once the leader of their enemies were caught, the skinwalker, our nickname for them, would bite and infect them, damning them to become a half-wolf monster on a full moon. Similar to most werewolf legends, our ancestor spirits are the most powerful and prominent during the full moon, and it is to them who would force our enemies into the transformation. The curse would be passed down for every elders males of each new generation to the cursed enemy's descendants. I normally would call all of this bullshit or just a scary story, but after that night of my sighting and what followed 4 years later, let's just say I've opened my mind. Last summer, 2016, my mom and fiance, now wife, went shopping at Barnes & Noble and noticed a book by an author who was a cryptozoologist and who I followed on social media in case of hearing anything similar to my experience and thought I'd like it. I couldn't put it down, and after reading the chapter where a woman in Tennessee saw a clothed creature, I decided that after 4 years of hesitating, it was time to write to her. She believed my story and told me about a lot of people reporting things similar to mine, and I let her in my tribe's legends to give both of us an angle we hadn't considered as far as learning. That the creature is. It's been months since our conversation and since she posted my story, so she has no idea what came next. My horror wasn't over. In September of 2016, I was delivering lumber to a neighborhood in Katy, right near that G.D. Bartlett Road. The way it's set up, is you've got an Avenue D and Bartlett Road, the road of my encounter, running parallel to each other, with Franz Road cut off connecting them in between, which is where I was on a route to a new developing neighborhood and blew out my tire. My work truck doesn't come with a spare, so I had to call my boss to send a service truck out to replace my tire. All I could do was wait. I smoked about 3 cigarettes. I listened to horror stories on YouTube and started working on lyrics. I'm also a songwriter. When a truck came down the darkening road, I assumed it was a tire guy, but the truck was an old Ford and it was beat up, probably a 98 model Ford, red with a single cab. The truck slowed as it came by my truck and he rolled his window down. I didn't pay much attention to him, but I looked up in his direction. His face was hidden, but in a rougher, quiet voice he asked, "Hey, bud, is everything all right? Anything I can do to help you with?" I said, "No, thank you, sir. I've got a service truck due here in about 5 minutes from now to fix my tire. I really appreciate your concern and courtesy, though. Thank you again." The man then turned his head sharply toward me and sniffed the air, then smiled, revealing very yellow teeth with canines that honestly looked like fangs of a vampire. Yeah, that freaked me out. And what was really scary was that son of a bitch was wearing a blue flannel shirt with patches on the shoulders. The werewolf I'd seen was wearing a torn blue flannel shirt also. And I don't believe in coincidences, not after everything I've seen. My eyes were widened in shock, and his smile grew more sinister as he says, "I remember you." "What?" I stammered. "I remember you," he growled loudly in a demonic-sounding voice, and his eyes, I shit you not, turned yellow. The tire truck came down the road, and at that moment, and the man looked annoyed, but still very satisfied with himself. He looked at me. His eyes were normal and his teeth just yellow but not sharp, and said, "See you around, Blake." I almost pissed myself right there, hearing him say my name. "F you, you effing monster." I breathed barely audible to myself, but he was already pulling away. I got his license plate but couldn't call it in. I mean, what the hell do I say to the cops? And plus the cops told me they couldn't give me that information unless a crime was committed. Oh yeah, this dude just drove by and freaked me out. I think he's a werewolf because he has a shirt the same one that I saw 4 years ago. Is it possible he's not? Yeah, but seeing the teeth do that and seeing what he was and how he talked to me, I'm pretty sure that's who it was. What do you think of this, Mike? You know, you said that you haven't heard very many stories of a werewolf or a dogman, whatever you'd want to call it, seen in human clothes. I have encountered one story where they did have a dogman or a werewolf that was seen in actual human clothes, and that actually happened here in Oklahoma. I done a story over it, and there was a lot of people seen it, and they said that it was also wearing clothes. It was a man wearing men's clothing. They said the pants were ripped, like it had became too large for him. So it's not really that uncommon to see him wearing clothes. It is uncommon, but not uncommon. Now, as far as the man that drove up on you, I'm not sure if he knew you or if he was actually the werewolf. But how you describe him and what you say he was doing and how he looked at you and saying, I guess he kind of like making, kind of the hint that he knew you, I would say there was a good probability that that was probably what you seen that night. And I would be careful too, and I'd be very leery of that man, and I would talk to the police and see if I could at least maybe find out where he lives. Maybe tell him that he kind of, scared you or threatened you, or, something like that, to at least get a report on him. That way, at least it's in a file, and maybe they'll, check up on it and find out who he is. But I wouldn't tell him the werewolf part. I would just, use a strange encounter or a person, because if you go into that, they're not going to help you. But that's my recommendation. Thank you for sharing your story. It was very interesting. Until next time, everybody, keep your head on a swivel. Don't be something's dinner, guys, and we will see you on the next one. I got a lot of good stuff coming. Thank you for smashing that like button and supporting me, and I will definitely have you some more videos coming out soon. Thank you.